Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today it's all about building our castles. We're going to be putting rooms in there, attracting kings and princesses and knights, and putting up columns and hanging out in the grotto and making it comfortable. But watch out for those fire-breathing dragons. They're going to try to take the whole thing down. Today we're talking about Castle Dukes. This is a game that's about 60 minutes long. It's from Medieval Lords. It's on Kickstarter right now and blends sort of a dexterity building element of the castles with a strategy game of action point allowance. Let me show how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. Now before I get started, I want to let you know all the components and artwork in this preview are basically prototypes and are not the final version, and anything is subject to change. Check the Kickstarter page to be sure. In Castle Dukes, over 9 rounds, each player is going to have their own board where they'll be building their castle over the course of the game, starting from these 3 foundations. Over the course of the game, as you build your castle, you'll be gaining comfort, defense, and offense. You'll get to look at this, but all the other players will see the same thing on the other side, but they will see a different look. So everybody's attributes are known by everybody. Now each of the 9 rounds that you see on the turn track have 3 phases: the room phase, the building phase, and the guest phase. And during this round, each player gets 5 action points that they can use to do different things. So let's first talk about the room phase. Here we see the board where there's different rooms that you can choose from. In this room phase, starting with the player with the first player marker this turn, they can get as many of these rooms that they want if they want to spend the action points for it. The bottom one is only 1 action point, and there's no bonus, but you get this room, the dungeon. This one is 2 action points, and you also get a black coffer cube. Here is 3, and it goes up 4 or 5, and they're more expensive as they go up, but you also get bonuses as you go up for getting something that's more expensive. Now, these rooms have different things. On the bottom left, it might show you what type of guests it may bring in. For example, the Champion's Quarters could hold a knight or a king and 2 serf meeples, where the Royal Grotto can hold a princess or a king and a serf meeple, and the Training Yard can hold a knight and a serf meeple. Now, on the bottom right, it shows you what this room does for you. For example, the Royal Grotto gives you 3 comfort. Hey, because it's comfort to be in there. The Training Yard will give you 2 defense and 1 offense. Sometimes you'll have to build these in the 2nd or 1st floor if there's a down arrow, or the 3rd floor and above if there's an up arrow. The dungeon will, has to be built on the 1st or 2nd floor and will give you 3 defense, for example. So you can take as many of these on your turn as long as you have the action points to spend it, and you can keep them in inventory, and usually you can keep 3 of each thing in inventories in the game. And after everyone's had a chance to buy as many as they want, that phase ends, and all these just sort of slide down, and then these get refilled from the draw deck of the room cards. Now the first phase we did this, which was grabbing rooms for 1 to 5 action points per room. Then we moved to this building phase, which happens actually simultaneously between all the players to keep the game moving. You can do 1 of 3 things here, assuming you still have action points to spend that you did not use during the room phase. So here you can get a construction card for 4 action points. We'll talk about these later, but this allows you to build different things on your castle. This is taking a foundation tile from one of the 2 stacks for 1 action point, and you'll flip it over and you'll be able to place this in your castle. And here is using columns, because you will use these to build up into 3 dimensions, and it's 1 action point for up to 2 columns. So you can spend, between these 2 phases, you're spending up to 5 action points. And this phase is done simultaneously. Now, there's different ways you can play these foundation tiles. After the end of the build phase, you can now construct the things that you have, and you're going to put them at the beginning in one of these 3 spots, but then you'll be building up and then building over. So let's see the different things you could do during this building phase. Now let's say I take that foundation tile that we got, we place it like this with the bridges going towards us, and it shows us that we can place a room in here. So we place the dungeon right in there that we had gotten. Remember, it has to be on the 1st or 2nd floor, and it is. Now, each of these cobblestone markers need to have at least 1 column. So, but let's say I had more than 1. Let's say I had four of them. You can hold up to 3 pairs of these in your inventory. So we have it like this, and you can place as many as you want, but you have to place at least 1 at each of those cobblestones before you can build on it. If it doesn't have a cobblestone marker, you have to have at least 1 pillar there before you can build on top of it. Now you do only build here after you've spent all your action points. You can't build and then spend them. But later on, or maybe I just had a lot of these, you could actually place them on there because you're building your castle. Now, if anything falls and hits the player board, including a column, you'll get some penalties. We'll talk about that later, but you can continue to build up here like this. Now, let's say over the course of some rounds, I've been able to build up some more columns, and on the 3rd floor or higher, you can, if you want to, place a foundation tile face down, and that is known as a roof tile. As you can see, looking straight onto it, wow, he's starting to build this nice, huge, 3-dimensional castle. Well, what's so good about roofs? Earlier during this phase, I told you you could spend 4 action points to get a construction card. And when you do that and you split it up, you'll get different items here. And some give you different things, whether it's offense or defense, or a little bit of both. So you'll get certain things in your inventory. Again, you can only hold 3, but you can place those on top of roofs. For example, the brazier here, I'm going to put it like this so you can just see it. And this essentially will give me 1 defense to my castle. And the other items you can get is sort of a battlement, and that will get you a point at the end of the game, but also allow you to attach the cauldron and the ballista, different things that will get you 2 offense and a defense, different things that you can attach, so you're going to put on those roofs. Other things that you can actually put into different rooms actually are, coffer cubes, tables, which will get you comfort and defense, and surf meeples that will get you points at the end of the game. And the last place you can try to place a tile is a bridge tile. As long as you're on the 3rd floor or higher, you're on the front of the 2 foundations, and they both have bridge ends. You can place one upside down, a foundation tile, and this also acts sort of like a roof where you can place the things from the construction tile there. And as you can see over the course of the game, you can build some really interesting looking castles. Now, for the first 3 rounds of the game, we just go through the room phase and the build phase. Starting in the 4th round, after the build phase, we go through a guest phase. If you remember, as people are getting rooms, they're able to hold different people like princess, king, and knights. Well, at this point, we go through a guest phase. There's 12 cards that have guests on them. Only 9 of them are used each game, which means 1 for each of the rounds. They will get played here, and by the way, these are prototype cards. They will end up being the same size as the normal cards. But this will show you in a 3 or 4 player game, both guests will show up, a princess and a knight. If it's just a 2-player game, then just whoever the bigger guest is will show up. Now, if these guests show up, everyone's going to look to see, do you have rooms to actually put them in? Now, these would actually be in your foundation tiles in your actual castle. Now, if multiple people have a spot for them, then there's sort of a tiebreaker. The knight always seeks out the people with the most offense in their castle. The princess always looks for the one with the most comfort, and the king always looks for the one with the most defense. If there's a tie, they don't go anywhere. Otherwise, they go into the spot, into the room of the player that has that. Each one of them gives a specific bonus. For example, the king doesn't give you a benefit, but he gives you 3 points at the end of the game. The princess can allow you to reduce 1 damage through a dragon attack, which we'll go over in just a moment. And the knight adds 1 offense after it's been played. Now, let's talk about that dragon attack. It will happen either 2 or 3 times during the game. This first guest card comes out in round 3. If it does not have a flame, then there will be, next round, a dragon attack. Regardless of if it's blank or if there's a flame there, it will happen. So it's always going to happen in round 4 or 5. Also in round 7 or 8. If in round 7, it has a flame, the dragon will attack, and then regardless of what comes up in round 8, it won't attack. Vice versa, if in round 7, it does not attack, in round 8, regardless of whether it has a flame or not, it will attack. So you're going to always get 2 dragon attacks for sure, and then the last card of the game, which is the 9th card, either it will attack or it won't. So let's talk about what these attacks do. Now, when the dragon attacks, you get to decide whether you're going to be using the defense of your castle or the offense of your castle. You get to choose. It's better that the dragon is weaker against offense. Regardless of that, there's a bag, and you're going to draw 5 chits out of this bag. Then you're going to choose which one of these damages you want from here. So let's say I had 5 to 7 offense. I have to choose 3 of these 5 to do damage. So some of them do damage to the columns. This is like the 2 columns. Some of them do damage to any of the decor items that you may have put on there from the construction. So different things that you'll be choosing for the destruction. And during destruction, if you're removing a character, it has to be one of those. And if you're removing a decor, it has to be one of those. Now, if anything falls over during this attack, essentially you're going to get a dent token, which will give you -2 points into the game, and then you can rebuild it up. All the pieces that fell all at once, you can just build them right back up. And after the 9th round, the game's over and we score. Looking at the scoring, going top to bottom, you get a point for every bridge tile. You get 1 point for every 2 of the surf meeples that are in your castle. You get a point for every battlement you put in there. 1 point for every 3 black coffer cubes, 1 point for every room that's the 5th level or above, 3 points for every king, 2 points for every princess, 1 point for every knight, and then you get 6 points for the most comfort and 3 for the second. Same for defense and offense, and then 6 points and 3 points for the tallest and second tallest castles. All right, well, there's Castle Dukes, and as you can tell, what this game has going for it, number one is table presence. You play this thing, everyone's building their castles up, people are hearing other people's castles get knocked down by the dragon, and hearing a bunch of ohs and moans and groans, and people are gonna walk over and see what you're playing, because from a visual appeal, it looks amazing seeing all of that stuff, stacked up there. There's also sort of that strategy side of the game where you're trying to figure out what to go for, how many action points do you use on those different rooms. Oh, I really want that one. Oh, I gotta pay more, but I really want to build, but I won't have enough if I get this room I really want. But that room also comes with a bonus. So good decisions to make as well as to which rooms you want. Do you want to work on offense or defense or comfort? Are you gonna hope to bring that princess in? Do you have more than everybody else? You can see what everyone else is doing. So lots of good decision making in the actual strategy of the game, but then it adds on that whole dexterity element. So if you like those two elements, you like this sort of fantasy building theme, but actually being able to physically build a castle along with a strategic game, then I think this is gonna be one that you're gonna wanna check out. And this is on Kickstarter right now. So if you'd like to, there's a description of this just below me, and you can click on that, it will bring you right to the page, and I'm sure the people at Medieval Lords would love your support.